The Joy debate has become the reference point and also the point of convergence for insights into matters that are pertinent to our nation's development, matters that affect you and affect me. We are going to hear arguments that will leave us all with better appreciation of some of the facts, historical antecedents, and also an understanding of our call to citizenship. You can join us here at the Ghana India Kofi Annan Center for Excellence in ICT. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask our distinguished guests, our debaters and moderators to join me up here on the podium. Professor Ade, Stephen Ade, is a professor of leadership and economics. Let's give him a round of applause, sir. We also have joining us Professor Ajiman Bedu Akosa. He will be debating against the motion this morning. I'm usually doing morning show, so it's evening. I'm sorry about that. And Dr. Richard Amakoba is also here. He will be arguing for the motion. Thank you very much. Now, I like the excitement in the hall already. I like the fact that you're all eagerly awaiting the insights they're going to bring, the arguments that they're going to be bringing. At the end of the argument, we will find out which argument swayed you and which one of you may have changed your position before, or well, after you've heard these arguments. Tonight promises to be thought-provoking. It's going to be insightful. It is going to be engaging. We are live on Joy 99.7 FM and our affiliates across the country. As well, we're around the world at www.myjoyonline.com. The debate will be subsequently broadcast on Multi-TV. That's the Joy News channel on Multi-TV. And across Africa and around the world via multitvworld.com. You can follow the debate live, updates coming by Twitter and also on Facebook. The hashtag is Joy Debate. Now you can join by sending us your text messages to short code 1422 on all networks. And at this point, without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to our moderator for tonight's debate. He's a professor of economics and leadership. He is a man whose passion, diligence, and discipline took GIMPA to great heights. He is the first rector of GIMPA. Professor Stephen Ade, ladies and gentlemen, your moderator.
Thank you very much. Over the next few minutes, hopefully within an hour, maximum an hour and a half, we are going to listen to two people who should know whether Ghana's independence has lost its meaning or not. Let me say that there's going to be very strict rules because there's no dinner provided for this evening. There will be 3 rounds. The first one, I will give each one of them 10 minutes to present their cases. And there will be a short interlude. Then I will call them back, and each one will be given another 10 minutes, during which, of course, they can decide whether they continue in their diatribe or they would do something else. We will then break, and we will have a final round in which we will ask the two of them to stand together and then debate, do their final discussions. Please, I want to ask the audience not to clap when one finishes. In other words, we will clap at the end of the round when the two of them have spoken. We will then give you a chance to ask questions, make comments. Then there will be a voting to see both those of you here and those who will be voting electronically or otherwise as to how the two performed. Let me say that I'm not going to allow the usual NPP, NDC, CPP type of things. We are talking about Ghana as a nation. in 58 years, how far have we come? Did we travel as far as we have? There were arguments just before I was listening as to someone saying America took 217 years. Of course, I don't want to hear that simplistic arguments from these learned gentlemen. Why don't we compare ourselves to Singapore, which in one generation moved from third to first world, or to Malaysia or else? Let us be realistic in our assessment. I know that at least one of the gentlemen very well, and he's an ardent Nkrumahist, but we want him to talk as a Ghanaian patriot. We'll also be asking, which is going to be a hard one because I'm sure that's why they made me the moderator. I'm not going to give any comments of what they are saying until you, the audience, have had your turn. The Nigeria will say, I'll have my turn in the end. Let me give an illustration of what I anticipate. For example, Ghana today is a country without any long-term perspective guidance where we are going. In fact, we seem all to be dancers to Osibisa. Heaven knows where we are going, but we believe we will. We won't be. So it's easier to say that, Nkrumah in 1963 had the 7-year development plan. I also like to know, he had an opportunity in 2 years to implement it. What did he do with it? In other words, we are not going to talk about, we are talking about where we are today. It is therefore my pleasure to introduce these two gentlemen a little bit more than has been said. Dr. Richard Amwa, Chairman of Ghana Health Care Limited and Executive Director of Health Ghana. He's also served on the board of Phytica Ghana, a company keen on translating Ghana's herbal knowledge into drug production, and the board of many others. He described himself as a systems thinker and is the author of over 60 academic publications and over 50 featured articles in the Ghana newspapers. Companion of the Order of Volta for his public service as a doctor, fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences and Ghana Medical Association. He's also a fellow of the Royal College of Pathologists, West African College of Surgeons, Physicians, and the Ghana College of Physicians. Professor Akosa is a latter-day politician of the Convention People's Party. I don't know why he called himself a latter-day, because his father was D.C. Akosa, who used to visit my father as chairman of the CPP of southern part of Ashanti for many years. So I knew his father very well as a small boy. When he was a little boy, so he couldn't have come with. He's an avowed Nkrumahist. The only thing of all that I've said that matters is that he graduated with a executive master's in governance and leadership in Gimpa and was my student for 2 years. A part-time farmer and plans to be Ghana's best farmer in 2023. Why that ominous year? He enjoys dancing and reading. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the two people who are going to battle it out on a topic which I will not comment upon until others have said it. I presume that we are going to go in the order of Professor Akosa first, and I didn't check your ages because I have said we will go according to age. Oh yes, then we are going to go according to age. Good. Since Dr. Baah is going to speak for the motion, then he has to speak So sometimes wisdom can be deferred. It is my singular honor, therefore, to call Dr. Richard Baah to come, and don't forget, you have 10 minutes or less, and I'm old enough to say, sit down.
Thank you, Prof. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be here to speak to you this evening about Ghana's position today. Of course, this is a debate, and I have to take a side. It doesn't necessarily mean I agree completely with the position I've been given, but I have to defend it, and I intend to defend it. Well, I'll start by asking the question, what is independence? It is a state of being on your own, where you have no boss. You make decisions yourself, self-sufficient, which means that you are not influenced by others unduly. It means that your destiny is in your hands. Now, just by this definition alone, if you reflect on the position of Ghana today, you know we are in trouble. Because just by that, it will tell you that the definition of independence, to a large extent, does not apply to Ghana as we see it today. But I have to explain certain things, how we got here. We cannot talk about Ghana's independence without talking about Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And so that's where I'll start. Well, this is where I don't hear Ghanaians talk about. It is Nkrumah's own history. You see, Dankwa, Buzia, and the others, they went to school in the UK. There, if you're a black man and you are educated, you are accepted as one of them. If you're lucky, you even be knighted. In the United States, if you're a black man and you are educated, you are a suspect. It means you are a troublemaker. It means you don't know your station in life. It means you're trying to change the order of society. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what Kwame Nkrumah faced. He came from a poor family, scrunched around to be able to go to America, helped along the way by his friends such as Azikiwe, and then he went to school, got a degree in theology, a master's, and then he presented his PhD dissertation, only for it to be turned down by the University of Pennsylvania for being too radical. Incidentally, before Nkrumah, there was another African student like that called Sheikh Anta Diop. Anta Diop was a physicist, but when he went to study and started reading about Egyptology, he became more interested in it. And he knew that what he was reading was mostly fabrication by white people to keep us where we were, because history was written by them, interpreted by them. They had written it in such a way to prove that they were justified in subjugating us. And so he switched his discipline to anthropology. And because of his systematism in physics, he brought that to bear in this anthropological work. His dissertation was to prove that the early pharaohs of Egypt were all Africans. I can give you some names. A name like Pharaoh Khufu. If you look in the present books on Egypt, it is not likely that you will find that name Khufu. Because when Alexander the Great conquered Egypt, they changed the names. Khufu is called Cheops. And so if you're not well versed in this area, you wouldn't even know you're talking about the same person. And so Anta Diop set to work and uncovered all of these things. Names like Tutankhamun, Nefertiti. Khufu, let's start from there. I'm sure you know of a name that sounds like that. Khufu. Khufu. Khufu means layer. Khufu in our own means layer 2. You have Nefertiti, Efrititi, the ancient one. So many names, P and K. We have Pianim, Piasa, and all of it. Well, anyway, unlike Nkrumah, Sheikh Anta Diop did not give up. He stuck to his guns, that he was right. His dissertation was rejected. He started going to conferences, presenting papers, writing articles. Eventually, it was professors who came to agree with him that he is right. And his dissertation was finally accepted and appropriately called Dr. Anta Diop. Now, Nkrumah had a similar situation. Unlike Diop, he gave up. He was angry. He was hurt. He left. He left the United States, went to Britain, stayed there. From there, was recommended by Akosa to join the political party UGCC, where he became the secretary of the party. I think this part of Nkrumah's life is very important to keep in perspective, because when he came back, now look at it, how he has suffered in America. No money. Sometimes he slept outside, doing menial jobs, whatever it took to get going. Couldn't pay his fees a lot of times. Preaching at AME Zion just to get pocket money and things like that. And now they've turned down his dissertation. He's come home not with a degree that he was seeking. He was not the same person. And so when he came and joined his contemporaries, the Big Six and others, while they were saying independence in the shortest possible time, he was saying independence now. Because he was tired of being ruled by white people. And so, you see, people like Dangwa and the others will not talk about the black man. And Nkrumah talked about the black man. He was color conscious because of how he was treated. In America, even today, color is everything. And so he didn't see the Europeans the same way his contemporaries saw them. Right? But here I want to digress a bit. You think about it. This is another thing Ghanaians don't look at. 3 minutes. Imagine for a minute a new nation that is about to be born, and all the leaders together as one. This has happened in the United States, where you had George Washington and all the others, Jefferson, James Madison, all these others who became president later, were all there. They joined together, unanimous agreement that Washington should become the first president. Adams next, and then Jefferson broke away from his own party. But they were all there at the same time. And this is how and why their country grew, because you had the critical mass of leaders all at the same time, each one capable of being in charge. And so if you're going wrong, one of your own contemporaries will challenge you or correct you. Look at Ghana's situation. Nkrumah came, he was in a big hurry, he can't wait for the white man to get out. And the very people who would have ruled with him, the very people who would have helped him, became his enemies. That was the beginning of the end. And that division that existed at that time, and I'm not talking about 1960, I am talking about November 1957. November 1957 is when the UP was formed. And the UP comprised Togoland Congress. It also had NLM in it. It had Ghana Standfast Association, also called Tokyo Joes. It had Northern People's Party. It had Muslim Brotherhood. Now you tell me, who is left? The difference is, Nkrumah was able to galvanize the ordinary people. He spoke for the ordinary people. And they supported him. which means right from the beginning, we had a populist government. What did the ordinary person know about governance? And so when he won, because one man, one vote, who was he going to rule with? And this is because this is one of the reasons why we had someone like Krobodise become Minister of Interior when he was virtually uneducated. Who was going to rule with him? One man does not run a country. He did his best. But that is the foundation of our demise to this day. We are divided. We are still divided. They were divided then. If anybody thinks it was later, it wasn't. Right on the year of independence, it started. When Nkrumah, as a matter of fact, after independence, when he traveled outside and came back, it was the Stand Fast Association lined up around his route that says, "Welcome back, Mr. Dictator." This, ladies and gentlemen, is the history of Ghana, and we have to tell it with integrity and with truthfulness.
Also, in his next 10 minutes, how we build on that foundation. But we have a self-proclaimed Nkrumahist who is here. I hope he will talk about the genesis, but will take us a bit further. It's my pleasure to call you Professor Ajimambedu Akosa.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and all you wonderful Ghanaians out there. I deem it a great honor to be invited to the second quarterly Joy FM debate series. But let me say from the outset, the proposition frightened me. 58 years after independence, we ask and put a proposition, Ghana has lost. Ghana's independence has lost its meaning. Why do we ask that question? Is it because we think there's an alternative? There's no alternative to independence. Every group in this world that have been subjugated have fought for their independence. Let me start with where Richard went to school. In 1775 to 1783, the Americans fought a bloody war for independence. These were Europeans who had moved into America. A lot of them as subletted individuals. But because Britain had almost obfuscated their progress, they decided to fight for independence. So independence is fought for a people who want to rule themselves. And indeed, Ghana struggled for independence. Nowhere in the world is independence given to you on a silver platter. Somehow, some people felt that by sitting down and talking to the governor and to, the metropolis London, they were going to get independence. But I tell you, nowhere in the history of Ghana was it stated that independence was to be given. Independence came to Ghana because the Convention People's Party moved the energy and the intellect of ordinary Ghanaians. You might think they are uneducated, but it doesn't mean that they are not intelligent and they are not without wisdom. And it was the energy and the mass of the people that shook the British and gave independence. It's amazing how intellectuals can say a constitution had been written, everything had been written. So the British was prepared to give away everything they got in this country just because you wanted it? No. Let's go back to what happened in America. America, having got independence, sought to decolonize themselves. Everything British was overturned. Everything. Even the language was changed in such a way that you will recognize that this is American language. We used 220, 240 votes in Britain. They changed it to 110, 120. You switch the lights from top to bottom. They switch it from bottom up. They changed it. That is a decolonization policy. And any people who have been subjugated, you have got to turn the tide completely opposite. Did Ghana do that? A lot of our people had studied in the UK. And somehow, if you do not know, let me say that Gold Coast intelligentsia throughout the Commonwealth were considered as people who loved Britain more than the British loved themselves. They did not see how they could virtually part company with Britain. And therefore, the likes of J.B. Dankwa and K.A. Buzia, deep into independence, were just looking for incremental participation in the governance of this country, not self-government. Throughout history, the first time self-government was fully expressed, you can talk about Kinagre of Cape Coast many, many years before, was the West African Youth League led by Wallace Johnson. Wallace Johnson was a Sierra Leonean who had been thrown out of Nigeria, came and settled in Ghana, and they were the people who really radicalized the political process because they knew that that was the language that the colonialists would understand. In the end, the same Ghanaian intelligentsia ganged up and threw them out. Many years of colonial rule. Ghana had, let me say, no university. Ghana had 15 secondary schools. Ghana had 3 training colleges, 1 nursing school. Ghana had roads that led only to where the British knew they were going to get something. Why were the Northerners not educated? Because the British felt they didn't get anything from there. But they were people. Now, immediately after independence, what happened? We moved full steam. 100 secondary schools were built, primary schools, middle schools galore. Nursing schools went up to 6. Training colleges, a lot of them, 48. All these things were built for this country because Osajifo felt that there was a need for every Ghanaian to be educated and for every Ghanaian to have access to health care. The only hospitals that were in this country were the European Hospital, now Rich Hospital, in Accra and Kumasi and Takrady. There were no hospitals for indigents, you and I. What jobs did Ghanaians have? The few who had gone to school, at best, were clerks or messengers. And if you know that even at the time that Konfanochi was built after independence, every boy in Kumasi wanted to work for the G Company because they paid 1 and 6 a week. 1 shilling 6 pence a week. No, 10 shillings and 6 pence. And that was the highly paid job for anybody at that time. Today, look at where we've come. From where we came from. After almost over 100 years or 150 years of British subjugation. Let's not even begin to talk about the slavery and colonialism. And what worries me is intellectuals who think that 58 years after independence, you can virtually forget about that. Like the Jews, we should never forget the Holocaust. And they will never allow anybody to forget the Holocaust. Today, those who took Africans away and maimed and killed a lot of them, threw them across into the sea, today talk about human rights. They have forgotten what they did. Post-Second World War was probably the worst time for colonial countries like Ghana and most of Africa coming out because they sought the United Nations to maintain a status quo. And today, human rights is branded by those who perpetuated acts of what? Dehumanizing. Even scientists studied craniology and comparative anatomy to effect that we Africans were of poor and lower intellect. Scientists. And all this was state orchestrated. As a people, the good Lord has granted Africa a lot. And I tell you, the world is a zero-sum game. They do not have gold. They will plummet your gold. particularly if they find out that they can get to you through a general agreement of tariffs and trade. These are conventions that have come, and I'm saying all these things have been orchestrated to keep you where you are. People talk about South Korea, Singapore. What do they have? If you don't have anything, at least you are let alone to use your intellect. But if you have everything, then even those of you who have intellect are virtually, how should I put it, become compradors, so to speak. Why was it that Ghanaians did not overthrow Kwame Nkrumah? Why did it take CIA, MI6, and France? And sometimes we forget about France. What people don't know is that when the leader of the opposition, K.A. Buzia, left this country, he went to seek help to overthrow Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. He went to Holland and he was told, I think the best place to go to is France. He got to de Gaulle and de Gaulle said, I've been looking for somebody for Ghana. For the reason that Kwame Nkrumah had the audacity to bail out, where? Guinea, Sekou. And he immediately instructed Jack Fourcade, his colonial officer for African affairs, to Sylvanus Olympio in Togo, Houphouët-Boigny in Cote d'Ivoire, and President Yamiogo in Upper Volta. And that is when the dissension started. That had nothing to do with coming to join people who, frankly, did not even want you. People did not know how to do politics. Kwame Nkrumah knew how to do politics. And Kwame Nkrumah knew that the ordinary person was as important as anybody else. He was not elitist. Those who were elitist just bunched together. And even when he had gone round and formed the youth movement, he wanted to use the movement as the youth movement of UGCC. I want to posit that there is no alternative to independence. No alternative at all. I will not want to be a subjugated person or a subletted person. Subletted person. I want to be free. And I should be free to make my mistakes and learn from my mistakes. And my God, all of us are complicit in Ghana's situation today. We sat down, allowed the military people to take over. Nobody was prepared to put up a fight. 11 years of Rawlings and the PNDC, nobody was prepared to fight. Today, everybody's got a mouth to speak. This is Ghana. And we ourselves should be blamed for where we are. At the time of 1966, we were way ahead of all the people that we try and compare ourselves to. They caught us in 1974. How many years after the overthrow of Kwame Nkrumah? 8 years. If you stop thinking for your country and you begin to think for yourself, it takes about 5, 6, 7 years for all the things that you've done to begin to crumble. And that is the point we are today. It is not that Ghana has lost, Ghana's independence has lost its meaning. No. We are not a dependent country. We must have the right to make our mistakes. And what is wrong with that? Everybody seems to be in a hurry and think that progress just comes like that. Meanwhile, all those that went away and gave you your independence are there because they want everything that you have in this country and will sit down and make sure that they will get it. And the only way is to be able to cherry pick us and make us their compradors, and how easy we are to acquire us to the machinations of the colonialist. And that is what is called neocolonialism. And all right, thank you.
Applause. I promise that I will not comment because I should not bias the voting in the end. We will have just a minute break and then we will call them. Can stretch other things. Just only a minute, at most 2, and we'll have the second round. I'm sure that there was a coup to make sure that I become the moderator, not a commentator. And I would gladly accept my position. And I'm sure that Dr. Richard Baah has had opportunity to rest on his case for some time, listening to Professor Akosa, seems we are in for an interesting session. One, blame it on Nkrumah. The other, if there were no Nkrumah, there would be no Ghana. Let's hear the second round. Dr. Baah, please.
Thank you once again. The topic is Ghana's independence has lost its meaning. And I don't want to make it into a debate about Kwame Nkrumah, because he is not the only one who has led the nation. But there's something I have to say here. You see, maybe I was away too long, 30 years. Of course, I came home once a while. And then I come home finally to stay, and I'm teaching our students, and I'm having such a hard time because I realize they can't think. They cannot think. They can't reason. It's almost like pulling their teeth. And so it makes it very, very difficult for me. Several times I've come to the point of maybe quitting because it looks as if I'm wasting my time. Bit by bit, I see them, by the time they get to third year, I see them blossoming. And so that has encouraged me to go on. I teach them critical thinking, what I call counterfeit logic. Here is a situation. You live in a country and people are galvanized to fight for independence. Ghanaians thought once we become independent, we are free. The Cubans thought the same when Castro took over in Cuba. They thought they were so free, they don't have to work. And then everything started going worse. One year, Castro's Cuba suspended Christmas. Christmas did not come on the 25th of December. I think it came somewhere around January 13th, because they had to cut the sugar cane before they start partying. Well, here's the problem. You live in a country with so much hope, resources at its disposal, and then the first president takes over, and as I told you, the very people who could have helped him do a very good job became his enemies. Here in Ghana, people say things like bomb throwers. We forget that the people Nkrumah suspected tried to assassinate him included his own men in the CPP. Well, here's the problem. If you make yourself president for life, if you make a law that says one-party state, if you institute PDA, Prevention Detention Act, that you could be arrested without charge for any reason and imprisoned for 5 years, later changed to 10 years. I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, what other option is left? So we can talk that CIA overthrew him, yes. But I can tell you one thing. This man called Kotuka, he fought a real war. He thought he may die. And I was there too. I told you I was a young pioneer myself. But when Nkrumah was overthrown, there was genuine jubilation in this country. And nobody can tell you otherwise. Genuine jubilation. Maybe it's because the majority of the people didn't know any better. But we were suffocating. But if you love your independence today, if you love your freedom today, you think about it. How justifiable is it for one person to take hold of a country and behave as if he is the only one who knows what to do? It is our country. I can tell you without a doubt. I was young then. But if I had a chance at that time, maybe I could have done better than Nkrumah. And yet, you had no choice, no chance whatsoever. What choice is left, ladies and gentlemen? What else is left than try to kill him? And now I tell you, Nkrumah himself thought it was his own men who wanted to kill him. That is what I will say about Nkrumah's overthrow. Yes, the CIA was involved, no doubt, but that too goes to show some of the shortcomings of Nkrumah. Coming from America, why did he not see that? Why did he not see that he was a danger to America itself? For a black man to be talking like that and galvanizing black people in America to stand up. And he thought they would leave him alone. All of that is part of the game. You see, we have talked about subjugation, enslavement, cheating, domination by white people. We have talked about it far too long. The fact is, that is the nature of all human beings. If the truth be told, we were engaged in slavery here in Ghana before the Europeans got here. That is the truth. The Ashantis just about subjugated everybody else. I read about a town in Volta region even today. Back then, at night, daytime you speak Chi, at night then they speak Ewe. Because you don't want the Ashantis in charge there to find out you are still speaking your language. We were divided. That is why it made it so easy for them to take over. And we were killing ourselves before they came. The fact is, the Europeans were fighting among themselves. It is not that they targeted us entirely. But when they came and saw how easy it was, well, of course they took advantage of it. They enslaved our brothers and sisters, uncles, grandparents, and took them away. But look at it. We talk about how you move forward. In America, they had two options. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Malcolm X says, the white man has hit you, hit him back. If he shoots you, shoot him back. Martin Luther King says, no. If you do that, we are no match for them. So we have to find an alternative. You can't fight with them. You can't go toe-to-toe with them. And so what he did was to put a mirror in front of them and say, look, America, look at yourself. You are the one who always says you are righteous and civilized. Look what you are doing. And he shamed them because it is part of this ideology of proving that a white man is superior and therefore he has higher moral standards. But now he's showing you, look at your moral standards. Look at it. And he shamed them. And that is what brought about change. I want to say, there are a lot of people in the world who has fought for justice. Whether black people or not does not matter. And I can tell you about Abraham Lincoln. He's a white man. But he said, one day he was traveling on a boat on the Ohio River, and he saw 12 slaves chained together. And he said, that sight has been a continuous torment to me. Every time I close my eyes, I see them. And so when he gets the chance to become president, that is when he says, this must stop. He fought for justice, not just for white people, but for black people too. And so please, we live in this country where at some point 40% of our budget was supported by Europeans. Yet we talk as if they are our enemies. What is it? Where do we stand? What do we want? When right now, I can tell you, we are the stepchildren of the IMF and the World Bank. Do we know what we are doing? Has our independence not lost its meaning when others tell us what to do? We are under IMF conditionalities. How many times have we been there? 3 times? Are we on our own? Do we know what we are doing? Look at India and the others. India today has sent a spacecraft to Mars. You hear that? To Mars. We are still complaining. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have no doubt at all there has been discrimination against black people. But that is the order of the day. Learn the rules well. This is how human beings operate. Learn it well, and then get what you can get from this system to help your people. It makes no sense to say you are a socialist. Is that an African idea? Is that too not a white man's idea? To be a socialist. What does it mean to be a socialist? Did we come up with that? And so please, let's learn this game well. There's only one game in town. Only one game in town. We have tried to come up with our own game. Nobody is playing that game. And so let's learn this game well. Others have done it. We, every chance we get, we say, the African contest, the African contest. Why? Are we different from other human beings on this planet? If they have been able to do it, why can't we do it? Do you know the subjugation China went through? China. I'll just say a few things about the story of Hong Kong. When China ceded Hong Kong to UK because they wanted to sell heroin in China. And 5 million Chinese became addicted very quickly. The emperor was afraid that this will affect too many people. But the Europeans had the gunboats. They say, we trade in opium or else. They started bombarding the coastline of China all the way to Shanghai until the Chinese emperor relented and said, okay, why don't you take this island for 99 years and trade your opium over there and leave my people alone? And that is what became Hong Kong. That 99 years came up in 1995 when UK handed Hong Kong back. Not UK handed it, China demanded Hong Kong back. That is the game. Even big China has played the game. The Chinese Communist Party. Do you hear them talking about that now? What is ideology? This is exactly what the modern engineer, the engineer of modern China, Deng Xiaoping says. I don't care about the color of the cat as long as it can catch a mouse. And what he was talking about is this idea of dwelling so much on ideology. Makes no sense. We have to feed our people. And whatever system we have to use to feed them, whatever works, is the system we have to adopt. Of course, Chairman Mao was very upset about that and sent him to a work camp. But when Mao died, and the rest of the Chinese leadership knew he is the one of those founders of China, they brought him back. And he is the one who set China on the course China is on today. He says, please, we are behind. We are backward. Look at what they are doing. Learn it well. Copy it and beat them. And that today, look at Ghana. Almost everything we buy here made in China. That is the game in town. No other game. And so, yes, we can complain. I think we have complained too long. It's time to learn the game well and beat them. Play the game, that's the only game. It's almost as if you're playing football and then you hit the ball over the bar and you say, if the goalpost has been extended 2 feet, you would have scored a goal. That is the standard you are supposed to face. Learn it well and do it. Thank you.
Very powerful one. There's only one game in town. Learn it, play it, and beat them. Does it make our independence meaningful or meaningless? Prof. Akosa, come and tell me.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I wished Joy FM had probably changed the proposition and had inserted Nkrumah's name in it. I think we're not doing justice at all. I want to maintain that Ghana's independence has not lost its meaning. Ghana became independent, education became free. People from the outbacks got educated. Today, having acquired knowledge, they have been the capitalists that have stood and prevented others from becoming genuinely educated. That is the order of the day. People had free education. Today they have conspired to make education an elitist game. I have always said that the history of this country must be properly written by the Historical Society of Ghana. They are the historians, not by politicians who would skew it to suit them. Richard says there was genuine jubilation on the 24th of February 1966, and nobody can tell you otherwise. Well, this man has no co-equal. And that is why he can talk like that. Sadly, I posit that intellectuals have failed this country. You go and learn, and I hope he doesn't do that. Because when I went to school in Gimpa, my issue with all the lecturers was that they were just talking neoliberalism. And I told them, I can read Harvard Review. Come and situate whatever you've read in the Ghanaian context and make it culturally sensitive. That is the problem we have in this country. But I say, what is the alternative to independence? Subjugation. And I've said that from 1844, when Britain had the mandate to control this country, they left us with what? How many schools? How many hospitals? You as Africans or Ghanaians in Ghana did not have a hospital to attend. You went to European hospital, rich hospital, you will not be able to pay. So you will not even get through the gate. That was Ghana under subjugation. Today, how many hospitals do we have? We even have a national health insurance. Whatever the difficulties, we have it. It's almost as if Ghana believes that we should be able to turn things overnight. I would agree with Lee Kuan Yew, but somebody like the moderator himself, if he had been in Singapore, would have said that man is a dictator and he must be overthrown. But today we sit back and soak the benefits of what he has done. You cannot sit down and play a duplicity that in your country you want what? Multi-party democracy. But elsewhere that have developed on the mandate of almost one-party state. You tout it. And yet, when opposition people in parliament boycotted parliament for good and allowed the CPP in parliament to vote for a one-party state, was it not part of multi-party democracy? You voted to stay in parliament and argue your case, not to abandon parliament. And yet every month they go to parliament and go and collect their salary. That was Ghana then. You know, there's so many things that we talk about that I say that if the Jews will not allow anybody to forget the Holocaust, Ghana and Africa should not allow Ghanaians and Africans to forget slavery and colonialism. Today we don't teach it anymore. If it wasn't for roots, a lot of us probably would have forgotten what we went through. But you see, that is why Bob Marley sang that you must emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but yourself will free your mind. We sit down and almost are just prepared to be subservient in everything that we do. We seem to want to lose the battle. But I'm saying that Ghana's independence prepared us and put us on a platform for accelerated progress. And you and I have conspired to make sure that does not happen. And you have the audacity to sit down and say Ghana's independence has lost its meaning. It has certainly not lost its meaning. I sit down, you go and vote for politicians whose only essence is to make money for themselves. Whose fault is it? If you had voted against all those who have come and have made money for themselves, Ghana will be in this situation? But independence is not only economic development. No, it isn't. The fact that you're free and the fact that you will not be shot at 28th February crossroads is enough for you as a human being. The rest is for you to develop yourself. It's for you to develop yourself. We sit down and think that this country is what? Ghana can only be developed by you and I. People have traveled. I have a classmate who left the shores, and a lot of my classmates, a lot of them, through the sweat of the Ghanaian taxpayer, the farmer, the peasant farmer, and everybody. You finish medical school, and your lot is to serve outside. Individualism has become the bane. And yet in 1936, Ifremamu sang Yengara Assassini that said what? That selfishness and greed will be the bane of our national development. 1936, Empire Day, that song was sung. This is Ghana. But I want to say that whatever has happened in this country, we still have got a platform for accelerated development. The choice is you and I. As we look at people who come to us for a vote, you get 5 CDs, you get 10 CDs, you get 50 CDs, you get your lot, and you vote. Once upon a time, when we were in a military regime in the Champon, the Association of Professional Bodies got up to speak for the people. As soon as we got into multi-party democracy, they were all party to the whatever democracy, they all kept quiet. If civil society will not speak, let's not sit down and say Ghana's independence has lost its meaning. Ghana's independence has certainly not lost its meaning. If we say that, then Sergeant Ajete and Atipo and all these people would have just died in vain. And many people fought for the independence of this country. Let's not their lives be in vain for us to sit here today, because we have acquired to all the things that are happening in this country, and we have the audacity to say Ghana's independence has lost its meaning. Mr. Moderator, Ghana's independence is on course. If you are prepared to lend a hand, and stop being a passive player in our march to progress. That is what most Ghanaians have done. A little tattle between two political parties, and who suffers? It is the country Ghana that suffers. And yet, we're all almost complicit in this game. As far as I'm concerned, you know, if you are intellectuals, please listen to the other side. Get the full story. And that is why I say I'm not writing Ghana's political history. I want historians to write Ghana's political history. So that all this propaganda that Nkrumah's own men, let me tell you a fact. Before Kwesi Ama died, I had a discussion with him. He was Ghana's High Commissioner in London when the Kulungugu bomb was overthrown. The first thing that happened was the British Foreign Secretary called him and told him that this thing had been done by Nkrumah's own people. And I told him, you didn't think that these people were covering up? Yamyogo himself was a punt in the whole thing. He invited Kwame Nkrumah for that border discussion. Those who had the Reke does not virtually lead 1 mile. The Reke left the border and went straight to Boga because that was the first stop. And yet when they got to Kulungugu, it had been orchestrated for students with flowers to meet the president. And if you were the president, tell me you wouldn't stop. It wasn't part of the plan. He stopped, and the dynamite was thrown. People who wanted to rule this country because it was their birthright would not allow anybody else but themselves. And for at least one man, because he had come and identified with the people of Ghana. Whereas the elitist will only sit down and drink tea, the governor. That is why Kwame Nkrumah is so hated. He was smart enough to know that you needed to be on the side of people. But let me tell you something. The man died almost a pauper. All the propaganda that he had taken gold everywhere, now we all know it was not true. All those who did that, go find out how much wealth they have amassed. That is Ghana's lot. But I'm saying he left us the right launching pad for this country's progress, economically. And if we want to take it, please take it. And stop whinging and saying all that struggle to get Ghana independence has lost its meaning. Mr. Moderator, I posit it has not lost its meaning. Thank you.
By Rawlings. So, I couldn't let that one go. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the most interesting part. it's easy for each one of them to address us, but we want a session whereby we can question one another and give some interchange. And therefore, I'm giving Professor Akosa some few seconds to catch his breath, which I know he doesn't need it. If you have been a presidential aspirant, then you know how to travel the length and breadth of the country, oftentimes saying nothing other than confusing people with rado. We hope that in 2016 we will interrogate properly what is meant by better Ghana, what is meant by economic transformation, what is meant by moving from a gorgeous-based economy to a modern economy, because we don't develop by slogans. National development is knowledge intensive. It requires thinking. And we live in a country today where nobody, from the head of states to everybody I know, cannot tell us where Ghana is going in 10 years, not even 5 years. These are the issues we must address if we are going to give meaning to our independence. But on this occasion, it is not Stephen Ade being a debater. It is Dr. Baah and Professor Akosa. And I call you to come here. And for the next 10 minutes, you can, I want both of you to be with me. Both of you. I'm going to sit down, so I'm not going to sit in front of you to get the bullets. I want, in other words, starting probably being the latest one, just some questions to him and back and forth. We want you to really talk as debaters. And this one, there will be no umpire, except that in 10 minutes, I stop you, and one is speaking too long, I ask you to give a chance. Over to you, Dolati.
Prof, in your submission, you talked about the assassination attempt on the president in Nkrumah. I have to say, before people read the wrong way into it, that Dr. Nkrumah was a great man by any measure. No doubt at all. Anybody who says otherwise is not being honest. But there are several sides to the man. The Americans, black people overseas, he did a lot for them. African countries, he did a lot for them. When Martin Luther King and the others were fighting for liberation, for equality, Nkrumah's words rang in their ears. South Africa's apartheid, he was there. And so please, let not anyone take that away from him. When you come to education, he did a lot in Ghana, no doubt at all. Nobody can take that away from him. But there were the other side. When it came to representation, when it came to equality of his contemporaries, that is where the problem came. We cannot, Prof, and that's the question I want to ask. You say that because they tried to kill him. But I assume that if you agree to be in the limelight to become president, possibility of being killed is part of the job. Would you agree?
I think in the same vein, if your remit is conspiracy and sabotage, then you can be arrested and detained. You have got to understand that politics, nobody goes into politics because he wants to be assassinated. And I don't think anybody becomes a president because he thinks he will be assassinated. You become a president and you believe you're doing the best for the nation. And at least for somebody, you have accepted the fact that education, health, infrastructure, pretty much everything, he was on the ball. Can you imagine that when he launched atomic energy, this man said, but that is not all. After Akosa, he was talking about renewable energy. He was talking about, solar energy, all those things. And I urge everybody, go and read Nkrumah's speech at the inauguration of atomic energy. This was not a man who came in to be killed. And I'm saying that this man, the assassination was because they just hated his guts. Somehow, some people felt it was their birthright to be president of this country. But I don't believe anybody was born to be president. I don't think that John Mahama felt that he was born to be president. You understand? So, if you are president, I could ask the same question, that if K. Buzia was prime minister and he had been shot, would he have accepted that the fact that he became prime minister meant he was opening himself up for assassination?
Well, that's not what I'm saying at all. The Pope himself, you know about Pope John Paul, he was shot just for being Pope. The point is, if you become a big person like that, there are some crazy people. It doesn't mean they don't like you. He just wants to be popular by killing you. And so that is part. It is part of that position. That is the hazard of that position.
Very good. I think we'll move from the assassination of Nkrumah to go on. It's Ghana's independence on the 58th day something. And now it is on your side. If you want to ask a question or you want to make a comment from what he had presented.
Ghana is 58 years. We should, in this country, be talking about the national interest. We in this country should be doing our cost of living research. We should be doing how people are earning a living. People walk the streets. Do we even know where they sleep? We as Ghanaians, you as a political scientist, and you as a radio commentator, what is the analysis that you have done that would move Ghana from the platform that has been created by the CPP government up to 1966 for Ghana to move forward? That is my question.
Well, this is what I'll say to it. Simply that we didn't learn the game very well. We still don't understand it. When we live in this country, we cannot interpret the constitution properly. Look what happened the other day. MPP came up with these rules for their party. All three areas unconstitutional. That is the problem. We don't understand it. Thank you. We don't understand what we are doing. What I say is this. We have to accept the premise that human beings are bad. That's it. That is the beginning of government. And this is what the Americans realize. James Madison says, if men were angels, no government would be needed. Because we are bad is why we need a government. So make the laws to make sure that the bad person who is going to do the bad things cannot do it. That's it. So when Prof, you say we should stop being passive, are you not in a way saying that Ghana's independence has lost its meaning?
Absolutely not. And let me say that I would just want to take on from what you just said, that governments are there to maintain the sovereignty of the nation. You know, 9/11, America passed the Patriots Act. The Patriots Act says that if you are found in any state, believe that you're doing something inimical to the state of America, you'll be arrested. And you'll be dumped in Guantanamo Bay. In July 2007, UK passed the UK Terrorism Act because people had bombed what? Buses and so on and so forth. 7th July, when people were maiming people in this country, you as a head of state will sit down unconcerned. when your remit is to maintain the territorial integrity of this country. I posit, and that is why I've always said that PDA, like Patriots Act and UK Terrorism Act, if Nkrumah had not brought them into being, he would have been irresponsible as a leader. The management of it is another issue. But I want to say that because people are bad, those laws will have to be brought into being. Thank you.
Well, okay, what I say to that is this. Yes, indeed, government should ensure national security. But there's a fine line between ensuring national security and being a dictator. You cannot use the pretext of national security to silence your political opponents. And the truth be told, this is exactly what happened under Nkrumah. We talk about Patriot Act and the other things, yes, but today, Americans still enjoy their civil liberties. The Patriot Act does not mean government can arrest you anytime they want. As a matter of fact, it was an emergency time that law was passed. As soon as the emergency was passed, bit by bit, Congress started chipping away some of the powers, emergency powers, given to the government.
I'm giving each one of you 1 minute. Round it up, and you will get your 1.5 minutes. Reply his, and then 1 minute.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's very simple. I see the problem we have is being able to navigate our way within this. Democracy means government of the people, by the people, for the people. But in our case, most of the people don't understand that. And yet, they have one vote. It means we have a task ahead of us. And this Nkrumah tried to do, to educate the people quickly. But here's the problem. You are educating the people and silencing them at the same time. I ask you, who was Nkrumah's vice president? Who? Whenever he traveled outside, he couldn't even appoint one person to look behind him for him. It was a committee, 3 people to take care of things, because he did not trust any of them.
Thank you. Yes. And please, you are going to have your chance to ask questions or make a contribution, and I'm going to limit you to a maximum of 1 minute. If you exceed 1 minute, I will call the next person.
Mr. Moderator, Ghana's independence has not lost its meaning. Ghana has an educated workforce. Ghana had several industries, had several opportunities to grow. I still believe that all of us tacitly allowed all these things to be allowed to rot. Today, in some cannery could have been in Somenya canning mangoes. It could have been in Mankasim canning pineapples. Shoe factory could have been in Bolga as well. It could have been in Kintampo. It could have been in Avetime. All those things were done using Ghana's money. But somehow, people felt that the Europeans would do it for us. Their masters told them, forget about all these things, we'll do it for you. And therefore, industries that we spent Ghana's good money in doing have all been allowed to rot. I want to say that we have the platform on which Ghana can grow. But I still believe that I'll rather, and as Kwame Nkrumah put it, I prefer self-government in danger to servitude in tranquility. Independence forever. The alternative, I will not even shudder to think about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Give them a... You can applaud them. Thank you very much. Can you be seated? No chairman's comment yet. I know that my good friend sitting there, whose name I won't mention, can't believe that I can discipline myself not to talk for 1.5 hours. Now it is the turn. Please, you can have the second one. And let me see by show of hands, those who want to. My goodness. Remember, we have therefore not more than 1 minute. Yes, the first person. Yep. Your name, and then quickly, a comment or a question. A question 30 seconds, a comment 1 minute. Yep.
My name is Abbas Zulkarnain. My question goes to Dr. Richard. He talks about Ghana understanding the game. So my understanding of the game is cheating and thievery. Yes. If Ghana as a country is going to compete with countries like USA and Western countries who have practiced and perfected the act of cheating and thievery, I don't think we can compete, and I don't think Ghana will survive. And if my understanding of his game of the game is correct, how will Ghana compete, with countries like Western countries and then America?
The question is that it's a big assumption. Is the game thieving? I don't think so.
Thank you. The game is not thievery at all. The game is how you run a society of bad people. And so you don't assume they are going to do good things. You assume they are going to do bad things. And because of that, you are always watching them. They have something called counterintelligence. For example, the US FBI, even today, are always listening to politicians. They will set you up. There was a black politician from Louisiana who was busted. They got people who were supposed to be Nigerian businessmen. I mean, elaborate scheme to fool this guy. They came, they took pictures as if they were really Nigerian businessmen dressed up and all of that. And they came to see him because they saw that this politician had taken bribes. And so they went and got a warrant from the court to set him up. So they came and said, we want to do business, we need your help. And he fell for it. They gave him $60,000 in his house. He didn't know that the people he were talking to were all FBI. The buttons were cameras. He put that $60,000 in his refrigerator. As soon as they left, the FBI came in and said, you are under arrest. That is what it takes. Do not assume they are going to do good things because human beings are not good. And so when they do bad things, you should not be surprised.
Hello.
Well, let me also just say in this regard, I mean, there are certain ways in being a part of the development community, and therefore don't expect that others will develop your country for you. China didn't wait, Japan didn't wait. They went forward aggressively to get what they needed. But I'll comment on that later.
Yeah, hello. I think this is a very good program, but I would urge Joy FM not to be doing it a quarterly thing. And besides, the topic I think should also be changed to Kwame Nkrumah, positive or negative. Because
that's what they talked about.
Because they ended up talking about Kwame Nkrumah. And I have two questions for both Mr. Amwako and
be very quick.
Professor Akosa. First, Professor Akosa, when Dr. Kwame Nkrumah became the president of the country, I also believe that he erred in so many instances. One has to do with the fact that you said independence means that being able to think and do things on yourself. Kwame Nkrumah should have also realized that when he was sacking Busia out of this town, definitely Busia was also going to seek for his independence by what? Eliminating the person who is doing this thing.
What's your other question? Because you have almost exhausted your time. What are your other questions?
My other question is, Dr. Mwako, do you not also believe that perhaps the UP could have, or those who were against Kwame Nkrumah, let me not make it a UP thing, those who were against Nkrumah were also not intelligent enough to have realized that there was a more better way to deal with Nkrumah than the street overthrow?
Okay, can I have another question before? A few other questions, other than that, we was just our time.
Yes, thank you.
So please, if you need a pen, I can lend you some for a little fee. That's the game. It's a game in town.
My question goes to Dr. Amakumba. You did mention that Nkrumah hijacked, the country and marginalized the people that he was supposed to have ruled the country, with. But my question is, did he have a choice? Because look, 1954, Nkrumah won the elections in this country. These very people said they did not agree. They sent a petition. Another election was organized in 56. Nkrumah won again. When he moved this motion of destiny in parliament, they boycotted it. So, did Nkrumah have a choice?
Okay, thank you.
Did
Nkrumah have a choice that working with the Valanda boys? Yes. Can we have one at the back there? Because, monkeys fight by sizes. That's my senior engineer Wood.
Okay. I just want to make a small comment. First of all, I want to insist that if the PDA has not been introduced, there would have been no Ghana. Anyone who wants to debate me, because you don't have enough time to talk about it, can debate me outside, because I can give the list of all those houses that were dynamited in Kumasi, give a list of those cars that were burnt. I was there when the first arson of the car took place. I was standing there.
So Engineer Wood says that without PDA, Ghana would not have survived.
Yes, that's the
So shall we move on?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
the
you.
last one before
Thank
then
you
we
very
take.
Yeah, my name is Abuaji Boampon. When Dr. Amakuba says we should learn to play the game, what I want to understand from him is that most of the countries he wants us to emulate are countries who have colonized and enslaved people. So if he can show us who we can also go and colonize and enslave. Thank you.
Well, which one did Singapore, Malaysia colonize? We will talk about that. I will leave them to. But meanwhile, I am not a debater.
I can't help but say that the game is called the Pakpakpa movement. I can't help that. Kwame Nkrumah, you see, that is why I just want to say that the history of this country should be written by historians. Who said Kwame Nkrumah drove Buzi away? There was almost a permanent boycott of parliament. The leader of the opposition left this country. And left this country, he went to seek opportunity. No, opportunity. And also to look for money to come and overthrow. You see, I just say that people who have done history and are professors, I believe that they will probably be dispassionate. But I say that and I am forced to bite my tongue because it was the same professors who banned Kwame Nkrumah's books. When America would even go and buy Lenin's handwritten manuscripts just so that one day they might show it that they, are smarter. In this country, when somebody is writing books, academicians can ban those books. And I'll ask myself, were they genuine academics? Maybe not. I just want to say that, in all this debate, Kwame Nkrumah features largely because he brought a different dimension to the independence struggle. Apart from Wallace Johnson, and I have done quite significant research, he was the first person who began to speak about self-government. It was not incremental participation in the governance. Somebody's colonized you and you think you can share power with him? You've lost it. That is why America had the war, they overthrew, and they went through a decolonization policy. And as we speak, that policy still continues. Let nobody fool you that they've chipped away at the Patriots Act. It is there. Let them suspect you of doing things inimical to the United States of America. You'll be arrested immediately. Thank you.
Okay. Did Nkrumah have a choice? I think that's one of the questions. That's your question here. Of course he did. He did have a choice. Who was he building the country for? Who was he building it for? If you are building it for the youth, and you are at the same time using the counter method to build it, what are you building? No wonder when he was overthrown, we were completely lost. And that alone tells you, he knew what to do. He knew what he wanted. But who else did? Those who did were the ones who became his enemies. You don't run a country with uneducated people. Only Ghana believes that. Nkrumah says he wants to build a socialist society. Then he says, you cannot be a socialist, you cannot build a socialist country without socialists. And so he's going to turn the CPP members into socialists. Is that how you become a socialist? And overnight, all of them became socialists in their pockets. They stole the money. They stole the money, the corruption that is going on today in Ghana. There was a similar thing that happened under Nkrumah. It got so bad that he had to come in and put his foot down. Nkrumah did not have to steal any money. After all, the whole country was his. That's the thing. He was dedicated to Ghana. He lived for Ghana. He's sometimes 3 days, no sleep, and he will be working. But all of that, who was he building it for? What was the foundation? Did we have the foundation? And so when he was gone suddenly, we didn't know what to do. That is the problem. And so please, you see, you go to America and ask Americans, who is the best president this country has ever had? No doubt, Abraham Lincoln. And then they say, what did he build? Nothing. The greatest asset a leader can bequeath to a country is not monuments. It is thinking properly. Because if you teach the young to think properly, they can build far greater monuments than you can ever build. That's the answer to that.
Okay, unfortunately, I have to go for one round and then 1, 2, 3, please. Okay, please, who's holding the mic? Yes.
Good evening.
30 seconds.
My name is Sika Antobre. Coming here, I read on the Facebook page of Multimedia. I don't know whether they actually put it there now that sources of information is very vital in argument. That their transmission during midnight or in the night is going to cease for the selected media because of Dumso. The question I ask myself is, how does the independence of Ghana assures my independence as a young person in this country?
Okay.
And because it's as if the arguments are coming from older people, I want us to bring it to my level. What's
the meaning of independence of Ghana for younger people today? Next. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Let the other young person also decide. Well, I'll come to you. I will come to you. Just a minute. Just a minute.
Okay. Hello.
Yes.
My name is Zakiyu Idris Tandunairi. I'm from ACC.
Please, can you give us some years?
Both debaters talked about education. And we are speaking English, which is part of the game, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. We have English as our
national language,
official language, national language, which doesn't belong to us. We have languages that we can actually use as a national language. So are we independent when we are speaking English?
When we use English, does it make us English people or Ghanaian? Now let me go to this young man.
Yes, my question goes to Dr. Richard. I was just thinking,
Dr. Wanliston,
don't you think after saying all this, don't you think eventually,
please, it's being recorded and transmitted.
It may be better for us to go back to all this old Nkrumah's principle, because spending time in Britain and in America, these people actually think Nkrumah was genius. Deep in their mind, in the street of Chicago, in Britain as well, the biggest bookshop, like from, big bookshop, when you go there, on the shelves, full of Nkrumah's books. So as a student, I'm coming, as a student.
Because you have only 1 minute,
Well, I think you probably, because I'm just doing one question. As a student also, my fellow student, student of philosophy, my mates go to the shops and buy Nkrumah's books. Okay? Now put that aside. You also agree with me that the thing that ultimately gave the final approval by the American President Lyndon Johnson that Nkrumah should be removed was the book that he wrote, which Lyndon Johnson says everything in that book goes against America's interest, which was the neocolonialism and the last stage of imperialism. Lyndon Johnson said Nkrumah have to be removed, and he also even added, including Macmillan, the British Prime Minister, that removing Nkrumah is not enough. You must remove Nkrumah's mind from the people, which is why Tony Poshevi, Professor, you mentioned about the people burning books. There was a man called Tony Poshevi who was in Vietnam and was transferred here. He led the burning of Nkrumah's books. So go to all secondary schools.
So what's your question?
My question, no, I'm just coming to the point that ultimately, the closer we get to the point, the closer we get to the point, like in Nkrumah's principle, because if you look at what this man have just done in Singapore, it's the same thing. He had come here because he saw the magic that Nkrumah was doing. So eventually, let's build a harmony.
At the airport, he commented that he doesn't think that Ghana will make it.
No. That I will debate with you on that. He had come here because he heard the speed of development here. He himself only didn't eat because the people in the queue to see Nkrumah was too much. Nkrumah only had about 5 minutes with him. He only ended up going around with Krobodusa and Co. and ran around Akosa and went back because there was a lot of serious thing being done here. I'm just saying that 20, 30 years, 50 years, the moment we start doing a good thing, trust me, it will have to be the same thing Nkrumah was trying to do.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back to you here. Yes, this young man. 1, 2, there was a front, 3, 4, 5, and we'll finish. The 5. Unfortunately, we are on air and we cannot have unlimited time. Yes?
My name is Robert Amukwe, yes. And my question goes to Dr. Richard Amwako. You made mention of Krobo Ebuse, the interior ministers, as being uneducated. Nkrumah was using such people like Dede Ashkinshan and etc. Were they not thinking properly?
Okay. Yes, the next question.
You find fault with them, so.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Yep.
Thank you very much. My name is Kweku Fosu. I work with the College of Physicians and Surgeons. My comment is both comment and the question. We've had this debate over and over
again.
The young people of Ghana, what are we going to do? And how are we going to do it? And when? Please, let's think about these things and stop the noise, the talking.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a comment. Were you part of my 5?
Yes, I was part of that 5.
His Jantua, his father and my father were just like twins. So I always have to discipline him to make sure that he carries our tradition properly. Yes, Jantua.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I am a bit surprised that the debate has taken us into those who are dead and gone. It hasn't really brought us into today. From the point of even the Fourth Republic to today, have we lost our independence? When we look at what has happened from that time onwards, let's even say from 66 onwards, have those leaders who have taken over, those who have been long-serving members of this country, have they been able to hold the independence to the benefit of the people, or have we lost it because they didn't do what they were supposed to do?
And what's your answer?
My answer is that they haven't.
Okay.
Because of where we are today. At the time of independence, look at the number of factories we had. What have they done?
Thank you.
Dwindled all those factories today.
Let's go to number 3, and then 4 and 5. Yes. No, give it to him. Give it to him, the young man. Yes.
Thank you very much.
There are 2 here.
I am Musa Larry Prince from African University College of Communications, and my first question goes to Dr. Amakuba. I got the impression that subjugation does not matter in this debate from your submission. I want to know, how does independence gain its meaning if subjugation doesn't matter? And since when did Ghana lose the meaning of its independence? And then to Professor Akosa. Our independence is meaningless unless it is linked to the total liberation of the African continent. This is a famous quote from the former president, Dr. Nkrumah. How do you relate this quote to the topic of today?
Today, after every country has been so-called liberated. Now the last two, give it to them. Because our time is up so that they can sum it up.
Yes, my name is Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Eduhene, retired. I came here to actually listen to what is in our context today. Has Ghana's independence, has it lost its meaning? Really, I didn't want to come and listen to the history of Nkrumahism and Buziaism and things like that. My daughter, he's finished Legon. He's jobless. I go to my village, people are there jobless. My area, Sefi, it's on tarred road all over. This is what I want to see. Ghana's independence. What is the meaning today? A lot of students are here jobless. Not about what previous things happened. Please, let's relate it to the context today. That's what I want to hear.
The last one.
He says, some of you guys.
Yes. The last one will be the, no, you have had your chance, so let's give it to the young man at the back. And that will be the end of the contribution and questions so that they will react to it, and we have to run up.
My name is Wilson Michael. I work here at AITI. My question is this. Taking the statement that was made that the black man is capable of managing his own affairs, if we look at Ghana as it stands now, are we capable of managing our own affairs? If yes, then I think our independence has not lost its meaning. If no, then it has lost its meaning. So I want the debaters to tell me if we have lost it or not lost it.
I will give the first chance to Professor Akosa.
Thank you, moderator. I think I will just take an issue with Lieutenant Colonel Eduhene. Independence does not equate to getting jobs. If you know the infrastructural deficit that this country had, and I want to say that no African country, with the exception of those that the whites meant to stay there for a longer time, and we're talking the Eastern Bloc and the Southern Bloc. Go to all the Francophone countries, they have one road. Every other road is no road. Ghana, we should count ourselves very lucky. Unfortunately, I might have to say that we are better off, and that is why we say Ghana is not to compare itself. Because Ghana, we should have been way out there. But I would say, but for the coup of 1966, we stopped thinking for this country. We started thinking for ourselves. Let me say this. It's a shame that this thing, and I'll go back again, that this thing has become an Nkrumahist debate. But Nkrumah offered jobs to the opposition. Buzia told SD Dombo, if Nkrumah calls you, don't go, because that man, he will persuade you. That is, the issue. Ghana's independence is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of Africa. Indeed. And that is why African unity was his mantra. AU today is talking about 2063. And 2063, African unity does not feature. And I say we've lost it. Because everything that Kwame Nkrumah said in 1963 in this, and again in 1965 in this country, have come true. The Europeans will cherry pick any country and do whatever they want to do with it. That is our game. We have so much resources that they will not give you that resting, Others don't have it. They've been smart enough to use their human resource to develop. We have natural resources that others want. And somehow, maybe this is where we have not played the Kwakwa game very well. But I want to say, and I still would say, that as far as our independence is concerned, you got up, you breathe the air of Ghana. And today, I still say we have the launching pad for progress for young people. What saddens me is that the young people have even become so partisan, it is unbelievable. When the young people from 18 to 35, you make the greatest number of the voting population and you can decide on who you choose as the president of this country. But you have learned the game that is played in the politics of Ghana. Probably you'll be worse than those who are on now. Sadly, how I wish that you will be selfish enough to think about yourselves and about this country and see your progress. If my generation has betrayed you, you are betraying yourself and the future generation. But let me tell you something. My generation was the generation, at least, there was education. Before independence, 5% of Ghanaians had gone to secondary school. You can't say that now. Julius Nyerere was asked that you were president for so many years and you failed. And he said, I failed. When Tanzania became independent, there was only one Tanzanian doctor. Today we have more than 1,000. Tell me I failed? And you can go on and on and on and on and on. And in our development arena, yes, where we want Ghana to be, we haven't gotten there. But of course, we've also come far. And therefore, sometimes in our haste to get to where others have gone in 30 years, or others who were almost, should I say, one-party state have gotten to. We didn't want that, and yet we also want to be where Lee Kuan Yew
people. It is your country. It is your future. Those of us older ones, our time is already past. Where is the hope? You go to school, you finish. I have my final year students, I tell them, most likely you'll finish school and become professionally unemployed and then join Ghana Association of Unemployed Graduates. And that is the reality. We should request, demand performance from our government. But as Prof said here, the young ones too have become partisan. It does not matter. Where is the hope then? They are supposed to be objective, but no. Now, you join a party based on your tribe. That is the truth, with few exceptions. We are divided as we were divided in 1957. That division is still here. And that is killing us. But we shouldn't lose hope. What we need now is new way of doing things. No more this socialist, this and that. The 7-year plan of Nkrumah would absolutely fail today because the world is different. We need to come up with a new way. He sent us to school, not so we can just sing his praises and try to raise him from the dead so he can come and lead us again. What good is the schooling then? We have to think in new ways. I'll tell you something. You see, we pride ourselves, Ghana, now number 2 cocoa producer in the world. Côte d'Ivoire, number 1. So we are competing. That makes no sense at all. We are neighbors. If there were 2 countries in Africa that should be united, it is Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. The economy is pretty much the same. We have common people on both sides. We produce cocoa. If we join with them and have one cartel buying and selling the cocoa, now that gives us clout. But do you think the Europeans should come and tell you this? Do you think they will come and tell you that so that you jack up the price? No. So then it comes down to the kind of education we have received. Unpractical, almost useless. We are able to repeat things, recite things. We appear to be educated and still helpless. That is the problem. Because, please, we can sing God praises from here to eternity. He gave us brains. God gave us brains to think with. This is what others have done and have put them forward. We refuse to do it. Instead, we want to speak tongues all day long. It won't work. And I'm telling you, you can speak all the tongues you want because you are a thief. You are wasting your time. It won't work. Well, so to the young, what I say is a new way of thinking, new way of doing things. The government, look, we have tried this over and over again, state enterprise, and they are all failed. Why are we continuing this path? Create the conditions that allow the young people and empowers them to do their own thing. Some of them have good ideas you will not believe. You know, I have people in Ghana, in KNUST. I mean, they are all inventors. They bring that thing to me, okay, let's see how it works. And then it works. I say, but son, this is just a rice cooker. Go and use the technology for something more important. And they are working on it. But how good is it when you finish and the economy is this bad? Who is going to buy it? Where are you going to get the money to start this thing? That is the problem. So please, let's demand accountability from our government and stop this idea of being for this party and therefore the party does no wrong. That's what I'll say about that. English as a language, now look, this modern governance is not ours. We can't use Chi for it. We can't use Gan for it. Now look, if I ask you right now, what is the Chi equivalent of gravity? What would you say? It won't work. I mean, years back, my mother visited me in the States, and then the space shuttle took off, and then my mother could come and see the plane is on fire. I said, it's not on fire, that's how it's designed. Oh, really? And where is it going? Now, what should I tell her? What is space? And so, we have no choice, because this whole new modernity is not ours. It's been bequeathed to us, and to use our language, look, if we were growing the language, that would be a different matter. You say yellow, he says Akosa. How do you know it's chicken fat or yellow color? We don't know all of these things. All right. Let's see. It is no secret that President Johnson agreed Nkrumah must be removed. And it is sad because I've lived there. Nkrumah should have known. Why didn't he know that they would try to remove him? He was playing a dangerous game, a little country in the middle of big giants. And what did he expect? He was empowering black people in America to challenge their government there. And the white people were not going to sit idly by and allow him to do it. He should have known, as smart as he was. Why didn't he know? Right? He was playing a dangerous game. Instead of trying to get what he could get for his country, he could have played this game in a different way. But he goes to the East, he says he's a communist, he's a socialist, then he needs money, he goes to the West. They say, hey, that guy, you can't trust him. Please, just allow me in 2 minutes. I want to say this so Ghanaians know. Please, let's not make this assumption that the Europeans and the white people in general are our enemies. No. Look, the Volta River project was designed, costed by the colonial government. 1921, a British archaeologist came here by the name of Kitson. He is the one who discovered bauxite. We didn't even know what bauxite was. And he wrote a paper on it, and then he saw the Volta River and said, my goodness, this is exactly what this country needs to stand up. Dam the river, produce electricity to smelt out the bauxite. This is it. And if we had done that, forget oil, Ghana would have been on its feet long ago. Because if you could do this, it means Magazine, Kokompe, and all the other places, they will be making engine blocks, cooking utensils, electrical wires, all sorts of things with aluminum. But is that what happened? No.
I'll cut it short. Bedema went to America to find investors. He didn't go to Russia. He went to America to find investors. Went to sleep in a hotel. Next morning, he goes to breakfast. They say, we can't serve you here. He said, why not? They say, you are a nigger. He says, I'm not. I am a foreign minister. It means he didn't understand who a nigger was. Well, they threw him out. And he became front page news. Foreign minister thrown out of restaurant. Howard Johnson. President of the United States, Eisenhower, saw this and said, my goodness, this is terrible. This is giving a bad image to America. Find that guy. So they found him, say, the President of the United States wants you to have breakfast with him. He says, okay. Next day, he is in the White House having breakfast with the President of the United States. Very nice. So they put it on headline too. Well, President says, what are you doing here anyway? He says, I need investors for aluminum. Aluminum? Well, who is in charge of aluminum? Kaiser. Call Kaiser. So the President says, I'm sending you this man, help him. He says, okay. Now here's the problem. Kaiser, the #1 aluminum producer in the world. Why would Kaiser help a new country to produce more aluminum? And the deposit that they found in Ghana is the biggest, among the biggest in the world. Why would he help Ghana to produce more aluminum so that it would depress the price of aluminum? There was right there conflict of interest. And why did they not see it? That he was not in it to help us. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The colonial government had written this paper, costed it. Initially, they said it cost $144 million. By the time it was all over, it's gone to $900 million. Then Kaiser comes to Nkrumah and says, the price is too big. We have to cut it down. How about we take the smelter out? 1 minute. I'll just finish with this story, and that's it. He convinced Nkrumah to take the smelter out of the equation. Now listen to this. Dam the river, smelter the bauxite, because ships will be coming, build Tema, so that Takrady is too far away. But Nkrumah has already started building Tema before the deal was done. And so now they take the smelter out, just dam the river, and now Kaiser himself will buy the electricity, the cheapest in the world. And here's the problem. If we had not pushed so quickly, and the Europeans had been in charge still, since they are the one who came up with it. And when I say that, I don't mean they should subjugate us. No. We don't have to throw them out completely. There are in-betweens. But they costed it. Did they do all of this because they hated us? No. It got to a point where they really wanted to set an example. Well, the point was that the white people didn't trust Nkrumah. How are you going to pay for this? You are saying this one day and then next thing, now you are nationalist, socialist, and so they don't trust you.
All right. Give him a hand. Now give a hand to all of them. Sorry. Unfortunately, the tyranny of time, when it comes to air, is such that you can't do anything at all. But before we do the voting, I will give this young man just 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Right, we're going to take the vote in this room. So for those of you who would like to vote for Professor Baidu Akosa, we'll ask you if you're voting against the motion. We just want to get a sense. But if you're listening, this is the Joy Debates coming to you from the Ghana, India, Kofi Annan Center for Excellence in ICT in Ridge. And quite a number of comments have been coming through, and I'd like to share a few with you. Someone comes through with one that says, point blank, we've retrogressed. Take a look at our state institutions. Most are broke and in debt. No jobs, corruption. Cancer is eating up the nation's purse, even in arrears. And if you go to Twitter, a few comments that also came through. Ghana, okay, this is a quote. Now, I suggest the next debate should be on the pros and cons of Kwame Nkrumah's leadership. That would be more exciting. That's a comment coming from Twitter. Another one that comes through says, Professor Akosa, well, the debaters must return. They barely exhausted the topic, only dwelled on the past with zero reference to today. These are your comments and so much more. Let's keep the conversation going via the hashtag JoyDebate. And let me remind you also that at later tonight, the debate will be broadcast on the Joy News channel on multi-TV, and make sure that you catch it. Over to you, Mr. Moderator, at 9 p.m.
Very good. Now you are going to vote. I won't advise you the lines you will vote. When you have voted, I will tell you whether you have voted the right government or the bad government. So now we are going. Those who are going to support Professor Akosa, we are going the reverse. Those who are going to vote for Professor Akosa's counter motion that indeed our independence is meaningful despite the roughage along the way. May we see by show of hands. Those supporting Professor Akosa, by show of hands. Now, can you put your hands down? Those who are supporting Dr. Baah, that our independence is meaningless, can you see by show of hands? Those in support of Dr. Akosa have won debate. Dr. Akosa, please stand up. Good. My comments. Now, these are just my concluding comments. I strongly share the view that there's no alternative to being an independent country. By so doing, I am not attributing it to Nkrumah or anybody else. There were foundations which were laid. It didn't take 7 years, 9 years for Ghana to be independent. The foundations had been laid, but Nkrumah played a very strategic role in that. Secondly, there's no doubt that we have not realized the full potential of our independence. We cannot, after 50, 80 years, be in a situation when 2/3 of our children finish basic school functionally illiterate. We can't be into a situation where when 50% of our children pass secondary school WASSCE examination is a cause for celebration because previously 45% passed. We can't have a situation whereby in our universities, most of the children are actually hardly teachable. We are in a very serious situation. Our health system is in serious danger. And I wish that nobody, government official, will be allowed to go overseas for medical help. Let's all die within. When I was a young person, you could travel on Blue Train. And someone just told me, actually, the brother of Sam Jonah, his older brother, said that when they were young, their father had a job in both Takoradi and Obuasi. He actually drives his car straight onto the train, travels on the best one, have his lunch, read his papers, does his work, and when he gets to Obuasi, by the time he gets down, his car will come down and he will take it and do his work. We have not made the progress that we should be making. And therefore, it's a question of not our independence being meaningless, but not realizing its full potential. And I'm not here to talk about Nkrumah or Busia today. I think we can do much, much better. There's no reason why, as a nation, Dumso becomes one of the first languages a child learns. Prospectively, we are a country today. For me, that one hurts me because in 1981, as advisor of the Council of State, then economic advisor, seconded from the Ghana Investment Promotion Center where I was the deputy director, one of the statements, and I still have my documents which I wrote, which was given to the government, actually on the 6th of January 1982, and that was, I think, motivated immediate dissolution of the Council of State by the Rawlings administration because he kept them there for a few days. And I said that it seems Ghana is a country without a brain. And by that, I meant that I was given an opportunity to interview almost everybody who is who in 1981 about Ghana, but there wasn't any group of people whose job was thinking about Ghana, the scenarios where we are going. And today, nobody can tell us where Ghana will go in 10 years' time. No country can develop by trial and error, a day, one day at a time. It is therefore a question of not a meaningless independence, but it's time for us to give meaning to that independence. And that means you and I now have to stand up and be counted. Don't allow a few people to be branded, oh, as for that, those people. It's not going to be just talking about NDC and MPP and other things. It's that people who are going to demand accountability, who will say that it is enough of stealing even the little that we have. We cannot have a situation whereby at any point of time, about 3/4 of the brains in this country are immobilized because they are not wearing party shirts. We can't do that one. And now we are torturing a situation whereby partisanship is getting so much. We voted for governments, and watch my words, governments, so that they will see to the development of this country, not to see to their pockets and their. And for that reason, we make sure that everybody, by Ghanaian standards, is well off. We give you accommodation, we give you transport. It's therefore criminal for anybody to steal public money, and worse so, to say that you give contracts to your people irrespective of their competence. We live in a country whereby every school block we build today is about twice that of the cost in Rwanda. How can we live a state to progress? This is the time for the ordinary Ghanaian, the youth he was talking about, to say that properly, not allow the military intervention, that we, the citizens, are not going to sit down, make politicians cheaters every day. And when 2016 comes, let me throw something in. Please, go home. You all come from homes and villages, Jantua, apart from Accra and Nanaya. You go back and tell your people it is criminal for them to receive 5 cedis, 10 cedis, 50 cedis and vote, because that 50 cedis will not look after their children for the next 4 years. And it will not be a doomsaw, it will be fine.